Tony Gonzalez, Chair of the Planning Board, calling together the City of Brockton Planning Board meeting for Thursday, April 13th. First, we'll start with introductions. To my left.
Yolanda Spinola.
Oh, board members, sorry, go first.
Marty,
Go ahead.
Marty Kroll.
Jim Sweeney.
Larry Hassan.
Okay.
And then I'm Rob May, Director of Planning.
Deputy Chief Williams with the Fire Department.
Isaiah with the planning board.
What's your name? The planning board?
And Evan Sears with the planning department as well.
All right. So have the board members, well, this is Marty's first meeting, so except for Marty, did the board members have a chance to review the minutes from last month's meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there a motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yes.
You got that? All right, all in favor. Okay,
Madam Chair, given that this is Marty's first meeting, I do want to welcome her to the board.
I did that on my own before this, sorry, Marty.
Motion. I motion, he second. Okay.
But now it's on the
Thank you.
record, so.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you.
Glad to have you. And we have a
Thank you.
full board. I'm sure everyone's happy. Okay, Evan, no A&Rs?
No A&Rs.
Okay, we have a lot release, 135 Elliott Street.
We do, yes. Everything's all set with it. Straightforward lot release. No issues with it.
Okay, is there a motion?
Motion to grant.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, all in favor. Anyone not in favor? Second one, we have Cypress Wood lot release, 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah. All right, so this one's a little more complicated. This is going to be 3 separate lot releases, and it's going to require 3 separate votes. For lot 10, again, it's just a straightforward lot release. Clean, easy, nothing wrong with it. Just like the last one.
So,
Do you want to vote on that first? Do you want me to explain the whole thing first? Okay. So basically, this is Cypress Drive. There's 3 more lots at the end of the cul-de-sac that they need to release in order to move forward with the project. Again, one of the lots is ready to be released straight out, no problems. The other ones, in order to release them, we need to receive some form of surety to make sure that the work that still needs to be completed is completed. So that has been laid out in 2 phases. The first phase will be all of the granite, I believe the curbs and everything. And the rest of it will be the rest of the basically completion of the street. Each phase will require a separate bond of $100,000 each. So basically what's going to happen is when if the city receives the $100,000 bond, they can release a lot. And that'll be twice, phase 1, phase 2. Is that clear for anyone? Does anyone want any clarification?
9 only.
8 and 9, yes.
so, 8 and 9 require the surety?
Yes, so lot 9 will be tied to phase 1. It'll have its own bond of $100,000, and then lot 8 will be tied to phase 2, which will have a second bond of $100,000.
And the value of the 2 remaining lots, 8 and 9, do exceed the value of the work to be done, but it's easier to work on all 3 lots at the same time, and so that's why he's posting surety, so that he can get those construction, get construction started, excuse me.
So we're going to vote on these individually, and if there's a motion for 8, it needs to come with a $100,000
Yep.
bond.
And completion of the
Just raise
street.
everything out if that's easier to read for you.
So, yeah, but phase 1 is which lot? That's Phase 1 is which lot?
Lot 9?
Lot 9. Phase 2 is lot
8.
8. 10. Lot 10 to be released at this time?
Yes.
Okay, with nothing, all right. Any questions from the board? Okay. So, if you're to make a motion on Lot 9, Phase 1, $100,000 surety bond to ensure the work is completed, single lot release for Lot 9 with a security bond in the referenced amount. Let's start with Lot 9. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
With,
Oh, okay, motion to approve with a $100,000 surety bond in the granite curbing and the completion of the road.
okay. And so Jim Sweeney second that. All in favor? Those not in favor? We're unanimous. Okay. The second lot, 8, if there's a motion, final paving and asphalt, sidewalks grade and install 3-inch 2 layers, 500 square yards at $35 each at $17,500. As built, $4,000, setting bonds, $4,800. Loam and seating the shoulders, $3,000. So lot 8 also needs the $100,000 bond?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So you want me to repeat all that? Motion to
No,
approve with
just-
$100,000 surety bond in the
That's
completion of the roadway with, as discussed.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? That's unanimous. Okay, and lot 10,
Motion to approve.
Second.
okay. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Thank you, Evan. Okay. No street acceptances. No proposed zoning changes. Our first applicant is permission to return to ZBA for property 1449 Main Street. Alicia Fernandez is the applicant with Representative Attorney John Creedon. Please sign in.
Good evening, Madam Chair Lady, and through you to members of the planning board. Great to be back in person again.
Do you have an extra?
I'll give you a quick
Oh, he's got
update.
a fancy pen for you.
Plenty of pens,
Get
thank you.
it back.
I'll give you a quick update because generally the chairman has in previous tradition in custody, as some of you know, would read the decision of the zoning board that took place back in 2021 in June, and some, I think, 14 months ago. The your decision is based, should be based on that you can find a specific and material change in the conditions in which the previous unfavorable action was based and describe such changes. If you've looked at the first plan, and if you read the decision by the zoning board, they indicated that, and I'll read that, just the middle of it, which is why it was not granted. It was unacceptable because there was stacking in parking, one behind the other, which is not a, it's not a prohibitive situation in Brockton, but it's not a good situation, okay? So that was the main thrust of that situation, but that caromed into what would be a safety issue, and that is that cars would have to back out onto Main Street. Now, this is Main Street, and it's close to Brookside Ave, okay? And again, they said that there was no showing of soil conditions, shape, topography, or land, or structure. I can tell you, well, I was at the meeting, made the presentation with our engineer and myself, and if any of you have looked at that piece of property, it was built in 1940. It has been vacant because of an inability as a use, as a commercial use. Nobody is going to go in there that needs parking for customers or retail or anything. So it's only, in my opinion, and I suggest to you, its highest and best use is to make a two-family out of the situation. It's a C2 zone, and I can tell you it is surrounded by many large multifamily residential situations. So it's not like we're derogating from residential uses down there. And it makes sense because back in 1940, it had a very quiet use, probably as a small business, and I don't know what it was because there's no record of that situation. But I can tell you that its only highest and best use now is to convert that, and we're talking about us demolishing the building, pushing it back like we told you. A two-family requires 4 parking spaces. As you can see, we have 4 parking spaces. The original plan had those parking spaces backing out onto Main Street, which was really, and I was there, the main thrust of why this got turned down. I can tell you the city councilor stood up, and it's in the decision of the thing. She was in favor of this happening because that property has stayed there vacant and unused for a long, long time. And if you really look at it, there are 2 gingerbread houses, I want to call them there, okay, that have no use. They're just, it is South Main Street, and so what Azu, and I think many of you are familiar with him, our engineer, he did 2 things. One is he defined the green space better, because there was some confusion by the zoning board, and then again by the planning board when we got here the first time, as to what the green space was. It greatly, as you can see it, it's in green, and it greatly exceeds the requirement in a C2 zone or a residential zone. The 4 spaces changed in this way. When you back out of that space, you now have a 24-foot wide access to Main Street, 2 ways. We had it so that you'd have to back out onto Main Street, and obviously, safety-wise, that is not acceptable. That is the thrust of basically the argument. There is no other reasonable use of that property. It's going to sit there and sit there. A new house with a 2-family, separate entrances, separate exits with adequate parking for the 4 is a reasonable highest and best use for that property. Again, there's plenty of hardship, the structure itself, and I argued that I'm surprised the chairman at the time didn't make some notes about it. I spent a lot of time arguing the structure is a 1940s, unlike every other unique structure in that area, which is multi-family. Some of them are 6 families. Behind it, the zone, as you can see there, is an R2 zone, which allows up to 4 without permit. So it's just a, I think the safety issue, which I think bothered the chairman and the other members, and I think you were on the board and you voted for it, and so you would have had some reasonable understanding as to what we had to do and why we did it. I can tell you the owner itself, Alicia Fernandez, who is Brockton citizen and works for the Brockton School Police, has for many years. Again, I think it's the highest and best use. I would reasonably ask that you return us back to the zoning board and let them look at whether or not the issue is one of hardship, okay? In all of my research, I didn't see one case that took a planning board and put them in a position of finding hardship. So I would hopefully consider that the board consider sending us back to the zoning board. They don't like it with the plans, the present plans, and the plantings, and the green space, and the 24-foot wide, which means 2 cars, one can come in and one can go out at the same time. So I would hope you'd consider returning us back to the board. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. First, I just want to go on record. I'm using my cell phone to get an aerial view. I'm not texting or emailing, just so everyone's aware. Thank you for that.
Madam Chair, if I may, maybe just for the sake of the board, C, what zone is that currently?
Pardon me?
What zone currently?
C2.
C2, and the uses in that zone?
It hasn't been used in years.
Well, what is a C2?
Oh, general commercial,
Okay.
retail.
Retail.
Retail requires parking.
Ju-
It requires square footage, 200, at some of them, 200 square foot per floor space.
Is it just retail?
Yes.
Retail,
well,
office,
Office?
Yeah, office.
Like it was a
lawyer
driving
office, this
school
and that, but
before.
if you consider the use, which is what we went for, if you even had a lawyer in there, you've got to have the lawyer, you've got to have the secretary, and probably an office manager. So there's no way, just with employees, there's no way you could have a parking situation where you'd want to rent that space commercially. In this situation, it cuts down on traffic flow. Another hardship situation, it betters the city position. Two families are gonna live in there. They're both 3-bedroom situations. There's adequate back room with a deck and the other, whatever the other one is, a deck and a plaza like. So, again, it's absolutely the highest and best use at this stage. There's no way, and there has been no way, that any commercial use is going to go in there because of the fact they can't do a parking plan. You know?
I can't say that I disagree with you, but in order to return to the ZBA, there has to be some type of substantial change, as you know, to either the soil topography or the land
Or the structure.
structure.
Oh, absolutely. I'll read the law to you.
Okay.
Okay. Every hardship decision has to be land
Structure.
topography. The last of the 4 is structure. And that's because of, old cities have all those buildings that have no real use anymore unless they become residential, the large situation. So clearly, I've been a lawyer for 55 years, and I can tell you, and Councilor Burke is here also, structure is one of the reasons for hardship. It's certainly not a different lot, it's rectangular, so that's not and the soil would be the soil that was there in 1940.
Well, I enjoy learning new things every day. I'm not aware of there being a 4th one. Are you, Rob? Structure being a 4th condition?
I had always thought it was the shape, soil condition, and topography. I can see where, if that was a virgin lot, that makes sense. Mass case law may have expanded that to include the existing structure on the site. I don't know. I'm not an attorney. I'm not going to go out on that one.
I'll go out on a limb. Our own decision, your own decision by the zoning board. I'll read the language, okay? Soil condition, shape or topography of the land or structure, right in the zoning board decision.
So,
Well, he's not a lawyer either. But if I may, there's no argument that this is improperly zoned and should be another use. The question up for the board is the existing structure enough for you to feel comfortable enough that there has been a change, and then let the zoning board make that decision?
That's a fair statement, in my opinion.
Madam Chair, can I just, how long has that building been vacant?
Oh, I believe the city councilor, who has been a 2-term city councilor, said it was vacant before she got involved.
It has been quite a while.
It was quite a while. And I think, I'm not sure, but I think that a film company who came to Brockton wanted to do a little film in there. So they rented it from the owner for like 2 weeks to do a film in like, it looked like a kitchen or something.
Madam Chairman, could I ask a question?
sure.
Mr. Creed,
Yes,
who's currently paying taxes on the property
Alicia Fernandez.
and getting nothing from the property?
She's been trying to rent it for a long, long time.
So your contention is that when the 2-family house, families move in,
Brand new building there would be nice. It would
And
be
the-
the highest and best use that could
and
be used.
and the taxes could be paid
Yes.
to her and then to the
Yeah.
city?
If you see the actual house, it looks like a little gingerbread house. It's so out of style uniquely than every other building around there, which are multi-family.
And the taxes would be higher.
Yes, yes, much higher.
Madam Chair, if I could,
1 second, sorry, Jim. What board were you on that you mentioned?
The zoning board.
You're on the zoning board. When this was first
First up,
presented?
June.
Yeah, and so you were also on it too.
Right.
So if structure is the fourth component to substantial change, why did zoning deny it?
Safety, absolutely, because we were backing out onto Main Street.
They had it stacked instead of the way it is now.
It was the parking situation.
We have an issue with the zoning board in writing their decisions, create this super long laundry list of things, instead of just saying, there's no hardship, boom, end. No, well, there's no hardship, and we don't like the parking, and we don't think there's enough green space, and we don't think, you know, and the applicant then, you know, if I can solve 5 or 6 of these, you know, then I should be able to go forward. So
Can I see what?
it's
And part of the other, you'll see
probably
off-
poorly worded.
Jim, you had a question?
Yeah, sure, if I could address Rob. Rob, do you see this Main Street being its highest and best use as the planner planning South Main Street?
We are over-retailed in large portions of the city, and the highest and best use would be to convert this to a residential use. There's no argument there.
I might add, the chairman, I think, in the decision, again, said the dimensions of the situation. He was worried about frontage. Well, frontage in Brockton, in our city ordinances, is 175 feet for a residential situation. In fact, we don't allow anything under 50 feet, and this is 50 feet. We also don't allow anything area-wise under 5,000 square feet, and this is 66 or 6,700. So it exceeds the minimum dimensional requirements of the city.
Madam Chair, through you, has anything changed substantially from the last time you went in front of the zoning board?
No, other than we were asked to, the engineer was asked to, I think the word was used to better define the green space. And so the porch and the deck are there, the blue. The heavy blue is the building. And the green space is all the green, which greatly exceeds technically the requirement for a residential situation.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember Azu's former plan, but I would also say, Counselor, that the parking, which had been magazine style, end to end, has also changed on it. So the streetscape has been improved, the landscaping has been improved, and there's a lot more green space on this plan.
It's substantial and material, which is the law words for
It would
your
be
vote.
substantial.
And can you just reiterate the change to the structure? So if we went off of the fourth one being structured?
Okay, the structure itself is a little, I call it a gingerbread
Gingerbread,
teepee, if you've seen it. And now we were gonna demolish it, put in a 2-family, 3-bedroom with the proper parking. So it'd be a much bigger structure, much more taxes for the city, and it'll give 2 more people that are on waiting lists the ability to have rental property for their family.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
through you, would it be owner occupied or is it?
I don't think so. She's, Alyssa is a Brockton police person, and she has her own home. This would be strictly rental.
So Rob, that's the minutes from the zoning board itself, do you agree?
You can have it, I've got extras.
Glad you brought it.
Well, I said, custom and tradition, Madam Chair Lady, is that the chairman always reads that decision so that then the presentations are made so that we can address what the problems were. And it's good policy. But then you can see the material change if you see the situation.
Madam Chair, if I could. That reads north to south, your plan. Would it make sense to reverse the parking where the in and out is slightly farther south away from the intersection?
I think we did.
Okay,
On
so
the
that's,
new change, yeah. I
Okay.
think we did.
Can
Well,
you,
there is a building.
I can't see where the parking,
Right there, 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
oh, down there. I'm looking at those, the arrows.
Nope, 1, 2, that's your driveway.
That's how to get it
Drive
from the road.
The arrows are what?
Here is the major
Sort of in and out,
safety
kind of
change right here.
get out of the parking
24
lot onto
feet
the roadway.
wide, which
Oh.
allows a car coming in regular, every city in town,
Like
and 2 cars
Yeah.
can pass without crashing.
Madam Chair, all I'm suggesting is if that was just flipped in reverse and the in and out was just another, 5 feet farther away from the intersection, would that make sense?
We'd probably be willing to do that, yes.
Okay, so just, you get a little more time if, for example, if I'm on Brookside Avenue and I take a right, it gives me an extra 5 feet before someone coming in and out of that lot.
I think we already agreed that we would push the house back, which would help.
I'm just suggesting the in and out flow, and
Yeah.
if you just flipped it north to south, the parking only, not the structure.
Okay.
In other words, just move that.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Okay, that's a reasonable request,
It's a short distance, but it might alleviate just a little bit.
certainly.
Good. Okay, is this open for public? Oh, I'm sorry, is there any other questions
No.
from the board? Okay. Public comment? Hi. Okay,
Seeing no hands raised?
no one's here. Is there a motion?
Go for it.
Motion to approve. We're going to recommend restructuring the parking lot flow.
North-south instead of
Yeah,
east-west.
Second.
And I just want to add on record that per the zoning, the ZBA meeting, it said structure, and
Right.
the structure is a substantial
Absolutely.
change, because that is what we are
Yeah.
responsible
But it's
for.
going back to ZBA.
Is- In order for them to return, there has to be a substantial change, and the structure is noted in those minutes, so, okay, all in favor? Okay, unanimous.
Thank you very much, members.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It was a good explanation.
Thank you, Mr. Creedon.
Thank you. Thank
Good
you.
job.
Thank you.
Next up, 48 North Pearl Street. Douglas King is the applicant and owner. Please sign in.
Oh.
I want to start off, Madam Chairman, if I may. My client, unfortunately, although he very much wants to be here because he's very concerned and very sincere about the development of this project, wanted me to hand out a letter that he unfortunately has to go to a retirement party for a gentleman who ran National Lumber, which was sold recently. And it's a 50-year relationship, and unfortunately, he thought he had to go. Just have a seat, Mr. Mark.
Is this an invitation too?
What's that? Yeah, I guess.
Okay. Thank you.
I also brought the original plan and the existing plan, if any questions come up. So again, I have the pleasure, my name is Jim Burke, I'm attorney at law with offices at 48 North Pearl Street in Brockton. I have the pleasure to represent Doug King in relation to his proposed development of 48 North Pearl Street. When we appeared before the Zoning Board of Appeals, of course, was somewhat disappointed. The concerns that were listed in the decision included parking, concerns of parking, and emergency motor vehicles. Other than that, it did not list any specifics in relation to the project. Well, Mr. King, from the beginning, reached out to the neighborhood and attempted to find a development that would fit in the mold of what has been on Brockton Heights and what would be a great benefit for the city. He did, and there are substantial changes, and your role, again, is to determine whether or not there are substantial and material changes in relation to this product compared to what he produced. First, he reduced the density of the structure. He went from a 10-unit to an 8-unit, which is a reduction of 20% of the occupancy. And I might add, it also was a reduction in the footprint of the structure. He created, after discussions with the fire department, fire access lane that was requested by the current chief. He changed the parking so that there was an emergency, a parking spot that was removed so that emergency personnel would have ease of access to deal with the building and treat whatever needed to be treated or service whoever needed to service it. And lastly, he lost a parking spot by creating a fire lane, which is great concern at the meeting because there was a discussion about the ability to get apparatus to the structure to fight a fire. And in addition, I believe Chief Nadelli indicated concern with the recent development of the substantial structure next door, which used to be the Braymore Nursing Home, and the inability to get to the rear of the structure. What was discussed as a possibility, what was laid out, and what is presented now, he's created a fire lane that's possible because of the reduction in density and the reduction in size that will allow the fire department to get access to the neighboring parcel. And there are created two gates, one at the parking lot and one at the rear. And of course, the fire department would have access to the keys so that they could go about the business and do the best they can to access any emergency. That is a change. That's a substantial change. There was a concern about parking. I believe there's parking already met the requirement of our ordinance, but having reduced the density by 20% in 2 units, we maintain the same amount of parking of 24. So we actually now have more parking than appeared before the Zoning Board of Appeals. You have, in addition to reducing the density, the rear setback was expanded from 32 feet to 43.8 feet. You have from the deck, it was 26 feet to the property line, and now it's 37.4 feet. He has agreed to create, and I think Mr. Morris can speak to this, as an amenity, a brick wall with a fence on top around the structure that would run on the side of the former Braymore Nursing Home that is now a medical use facility. There is substantial cosmetics that were gone into its consideration, one of which I believe is there was a concern about what you're going to do with the trees that have been existing by the cemetery for forever. And the answer, which was a great one, I think that was worked out with Mr. Morris and with Mr. King, is that he's going to put down approximately 17 linden trees, both along the cemetery side, and in addition, he'll have some you can identify on the Braymore side. Those in the planning department are certainly aware that linden tree is very popular expression in a streetscape because it does not require a substantial amount of water. So it's a very hardy tree, it's a very full tree. It is an excellent choice to provide a buffer and an accent. Generally, he is landscaped the living heck out of the entire site. There are, as I said, substantial and material changes from what was presented to the board and what is now before this planning board with a request to be allowed to return. Again, the applicant has clearly done what he was asked to do, and I think he's also met the requirements of what the intent of the statute is. I mean, the leading case is Rainey versus Board of Appeals, which we talked about. And it talks about a determination by the board of looking at the surrounding conditions and have they changed sufficiently to justify a reapplication. An example, case law example of a change that was upheld was the construction of a brick wall along frontage, a location of access limitations and a proposed use. Again, it goes to density. In the Rainey case itself, which is somewhat unique because it's really the only case that talks about a return to the Zoning Board of Appeals, it allowed and upheld the board's decision to return, and here were the amazing changes in the plan. New lighting, installation of drapes, installation of insulating material, and landscaping of a parking area. Those in Laney were held sufficient to be allowed to return to the Zoning Board of Appeals. I think that melds well because the custom and practice in the city of Brockton, Jake said 50 whatever years, I've only been 48. In the 48 years that I practiced here and before the Zoning Board of Appeals, it's always been a determination that if an applicant came back to the board and he made a real attempt to provide an improved, an increase, and a better product, that he was allowed to go to the zoning board because after all, it's their collective determination of whether a hardship existed. And that is affected uniquely by individual changes that may have appealed to them, like parking, like density, like size, like fire access. Anyone who can see, I think, that the proposed utilization of that will be in the best interest of this neighborhood. He's going to keep the existing front building. There was some talk about maybe it should be torn down. I disagree. You know, that is, and I've got the deed hanging on my wall. It's 1900. It is a unique structure. And he is going to rehab it, and I can show you the rehab successes that he's had throughout the southeastern region, in Foxborough, in Easton, the fire department building, the old fire department building in Foxborough. He's done great jobs at renovation. He received a Mass Historical Award for the renovation of the old school in Easton Center, which was converted ultimately to apartments and to a Y facility, which since then, the Y has agreed to sell, and he has been approved for more units at that complex. Look, here is a good developer that wants to come to the city of Brockton, and he wants to earn some money, but make it a better place because his name is attached to the end product. So, I'd very much like you to approve, oh, I forgot, major point, sorry. Getting old. I mentioned that there was, in fact, conditions relating to the size, shape, topography, and condition of the land, which is distinct in case law because there is ledge everywhere on that parcel. If you happen to be there when they were doing the 45 blastings and drillings on the Boston Medical site that came right up to the property line, and in talking with the superintendent in charge of the ledge removal, clearly indicates that the ledge, and it's also clarified by pits that we've done, exists on the property. Ledge has always been considered a hardship, always in case law. That we're bringing up because apparently the Zoning Board of Appeals failed to identify that as a condition. So again, I've had my piece. I thank you for listening. I think you'd like to hear Mr. Morris, who, you know, it hasn't always been a warm working relationship, but I think where it is now is impressive to identify for the board.
I agree. My name is Stephen Morris. I live at 16 Nyland Road.
Did you sign in, sir?
I did, yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, before I speak.
Are you speaking?
Public?
As a member of the public, you're not a member of the, you're not part of the application
I am
team?
not, no.
Okay, let's hang on for you just 1 second. Board questions first.
I am going to open it up for questions from the board.
Madam Chair, if I may, I do remember this case from the ZBA. I believe I was in favor of it. I guess just speaking on it, I do find it to be a significant change. I have spent a lot of time in Lincoln Street in Easton in that gymnasium and had the opportunity to see some of the work firsthand that the builder has done, so I can attest to what the Attorney Burke has said, and that's it.
Madam Chairman, may I ask, and I'm new to the planning board, obviously, but I do remember that when this all began, I actually got a phone call asking my help, which I kind of laughed at, frankly. But the neighbors were very, very upset about this project. And maybe you'll speak to all that.
I will, yes.
But I'm hoping you're going to tell us that you're not unhappy anymore. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Madam Chair, do you have any renderings or image about the form of the building, or?
Yeah, I believe we included that, but let me provide for you one of the plans. First off, that's the exterior, and it's similar to what you identified.
Sorry,
Yep, that one's up.
Yeah, you'll have both color and you'll have specifications.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And if anyone else, I have more.
Please.
This is essentially a project that he did extremely successfully in Rainham. And they would be somewhat similar in style.
Thank you.
Did you mention that our current deputy chief had issues with fire?
Actually, I think that Chief
That was the
Nardelli
chief at the zoning board.
at the zoning
Speak
board.
to what his.
And I
voted in
See
favor.
those?
And we went, I think, to try to make it directly to the chief and try to make it a better project.
Because he had asked for some of the proper lane.
He did.
Any,
It's really not whether I have an issue now. I'll get my bite at the apple at the
No
tech
fire?
review, so.
You always do.
fire hydrant issues or?
Well, it's a matter of just here today to go back to the zoning board or not, and then we can fine
Dive
tune
into
the
that then.
details at that point.
Madam Chairman, could I ask one more question?
Sure.
Because I've been trying to figure this out, is this next to the facility that's already there?
Yeah, my office has always been.
Yep.
So your office is the next building?
Cemetery and
This is the
Rainbow.
Melrose Cemetery.
Yeah, that I can see. I live in this area, so,
This is the old Braemore
right.
at the bottom.
And that is the facility there, the yellow.
This is what you see from the street. And that is.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
I don't have any questions. That was
Be in the back.
Okay,
Nice.
if not, we'll open it up to public comment. You're up.
Thank you.
Now you're up.
Thank you, Bob. Hi, my name is Steve Morris. Thank you for listening to me. I live at 16 Island Road, and I've lived there for 41 years. I'm less than 300 yards from the front door, and that's by walking. If I did it by bird fly, it'd be about 160 yards. I can see the entire property from my back deck. First, I would like to say I spoke against this project back in June because there were so many concerns. I feel personally responsible for the trees that are going in. I feel personally responsible for some other suggestions that I made. I actually sat down with Mr. King because in the past I had a relationship, and I felt really bad about kind of crapping on him at that meeting because I wanted the house torn down because it's the only house in the neighborhood that's older than mine. Mine was built in 1922, and that was built in 1900. But it's a nice neighborhood, and let me go through what I have here. I have a change of heart, a great change of heart, you know. And I'll try to show you that it's not just me, it's the people in the closest proximity to it I've spoken to personally that also had, they didn't think about it, they were kind of carried on by the wave of the nastiness of a thing with Wood Partners who was gonna build what we considered a tremendous monstrosity on the entire property, you know? But let me say, number one, the owner, Doug King, he's made some significant changes. They seem kind of small when you look at them one at a time, but they're indicative of two things. He listened to the fire chief, and the fire chief wanted that, you know? He listened to the board members who made other suggestions too.
Remember 3 minutes.
And the medical center owner also had talked about that, you know, the access that wasn't there. And the residents, by creating, he created a 360-degree fire lane that also benefits the medical center. They couldn't get at the front of the medical center before with the way it was designed, or at least, and that's what the chief was. He still voted in favor of the project, but he just said, can you make some changes? They did. That's why I've had a change of heart, because everything we discussed about, they all were minor changes, but they kind of eat at you a little bit, you know? Knocking down the 80-foot trees, but he's gonna put trees in there to reforest the area, you know, which is kind of great, you know? He decreased the number of apartments and increased the number of parking spaces, and he restores the tree line. That's what I wrote down. I know Mr. King as the owner of the Queesid property in Easton. That's where my wife's parents spent the last 10 years. Both of them have just recently passed away. But we found him to be very responsible and a considerate business owner / property manager. The people that live there now was sold to a company, Zen from California. They would love to have him back as the manager owner of the property because he was great. I have more of the,
You have your time is just about up, I'm told.
Oh, okay. Let me read fast then. Mr. King is a builder, and I don't believe he will wait 2 years with approval to build a residential property. It's uncertain at best. The property he owns adjacent to Queesid has a restaurant under construction now. I know my neighbors don't want that. I would like to state that the no hardship recommendation written for this project's consideration is kind of incomprehensible to me. I witnessed the planning board meeting, and the reasoning behind the 3 no votes was they didn't want to change the C5 zoning. If you review the minutes, hardship was never mentioned as their reason.
Well, the attorney already spoke to hardship, so if there's anything different you want to say
Okay.
in favor of.
Okay. Number 2, the Woods Partner Hughes Residential Development with 196 apartments and 295 parking spaces with a probable occupancy of 400 vehicles got the zoning change approval. But with the neighborhood overwhelming the city council with solid reasoning and with their own second look at the project, they voted 8-3 against it. They initially looked at the $44,000 a month revenue, which I can understand, and Rob May highlighted, which is his job, and he's does an exceptional job at it, you know? But it would have destroyed the neighborhood with cars.
Put that in the record.
It would have destroyed the neighborhood with cars parked in front of our houses, alarms going off, visitors coming all
Well,
out.
I think we get that you're in favor.
I am very much in favor
And
of
good
it.
for you for speaking up and making your suggestions. And,
If we have a copy of your letter, we'll put it into the
Oh, okay.
record.
Thank you.
There you go. Thank you.
thank you. Okay.
But we have no air
Any other
conditioning.
public comment?
Good evening.
Next, can you just please sign in?
Want me to do it now or after?
If you're just sign first. Thanks.
No, it's okay.
Thank you, Mr. Morris.
And try to keep your comments to 3 minutes, please.
How's that?
Bullets.
Ooh, I'd take that.
That's a challenge. Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Matthew Fitzgerald from DLA Piper LLP. I'm here on behalf of Boston Medical Center, who operates the new behavioral health treatment center at 34 North Pearl. I'm here on behalf of BMC to oppose the proponent's request for return to the ZBA. Not like you need to hear it once again. I think it's the third time you're probably going to hear the standard under 40A of return to the ZBA, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway. Under 40A, no petition, which has been unfavorably and finally acted upon by the permit granting authority, shall be acted favorably upon within 2 years after the date of the final unfavorable action, unless the permit granting authority finds specific and material changes in the conditions upon which the previous unfavorable action is based, and unless all but one member of the planning board consents.
The purpose of the 2-year moratorium, as you all know, is to give finality to administrative proceedings, to spare affected property owners from going back and, repeatedly having to mobilize on the same issue again and again. I'd suggest to you that the very sort of modest changes that the proponent is presenting, namely the reduced unit count, the reduced footprint, and the addition of a fire lane, does not justify waiving the 2-year moratorium under the statute. Although the proponent has reduced the unit count and the building footprint, zoning relief for the density and lot area requirements were not necessary in the first place. While the proponent has addressed some of the ZBA's concerns, such as creating a fire lane, I would suggest that several other concerns, namely the use and hardship, were left unaddressed. Concerns were raised by the ZBA and the community at large that the proposed residential use in the C5 district, commercial zoning district, and I would like to reiterate those concerns today. A multifamily residential building at this location would be inconsistent with predominantly commercial uses in this area, particularly with respect to BMC's operations at 34 North Pearl Street, where it offers 24/7 residential treatment for individuals seeking recovery from substance abuse disorders, providing clinical stabilization services and inpatient psychiatric services. These services are absolutely critical to BMC's mission and to those they serve. However, they are also incompatible with residential uses, which is why hospital uses are permitted and residential uses are not in the C5 district. For these reasons, I respectfully request that you deny the proponent's request. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay. Board members, any further questions? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
I second that.
All in favor? It's unanimous.
Thank the board for its time.
Welcome. Okay. Next, we have 683 Belmont Street. Apologize if the agent is Zikon Zhang.
Yep.
Okay.
And Jake Modesto is Stonefield here representing that.
Who?
Jake Modesto, Stonefield Engineering, civil engineering project.
Okay.
There's a little bit of a better rendering coming up, so bear with me in the hard words.
Stonefield.
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 So let's talk about hot coffee now.
Yes.
What everyone's been waiting for, huh?
And a carb-free menu at Starbucks and low sugar,
it's
low
frozen.
fat.
Black coffee, I think that's all you get. Well, good evening, members of the board. I'm Jake Modesto, once again, Stonefield Engineering. I'm here representing the applicant. Application in front of you tonight for site plan approval is for a new Starbucks. It is important to note this is part of a large development. I'm just going to reference the submitted plans. We're located within the C2 district. Just south of us is the high school, which is fed into our property, which is the Memorial Drive extension, into a larger 7.16 acre parcel that does contain several other uses. Just under 70,000 square feet in net size on the property, including the Taco Bell, which would be directly adjacent to the area, what I'm going to call is the developed area, which is about a half of acre in size. So currently that's going to be the shaded out area shown here. There's currently 44 parking spaces in that location, the signalized intersection, again, directly, we'll call it south of the property.
Is this the former Stop and Shop?
Yeah.
Yes, just to give people,
It's just in front of it. So
right,
you have
just to give people who are watching it at home.
all the way in the back, is that previous building, then you have the field of parking, and then we'll have the commercial corridor across the front. We have several there, McDonald's, the Taco Bell. So what the applicant is looking to do is again remove those 44 parking spaces and construct a new 2,289 square foot Starbucks. I will let you guys know this is not the first layout that we have done on this property. Working with staff through the process, we've looked at different ways to orientate the building to maximize the queuing and the parking on site. You want to note that from a parking standpoint, on a macro level, there is sufficient parking. There's approximately 500 parking spaces in the balance of the entire 7-acre parcel. However, if you look at this on a micro level, we still comply. So there's 15 parking spaces on the site within called the body of the actual parcel, but you still have well over 471 parking spaces left over. From a code requirement, 310 required, sufficient parking all around. I think the important thing to note here is we also have a patio area across the front for seating. That'll be stamped concrete. There is a fence running around the perimeter, kind of creating a buffer between what is the main drive aisle that runs across or parallel with Belmont Street. And then you have the queue lane that wraps essentially the perimeter of the developed area. So what's happening, that allows us to increase the stacking for this facility. We do understand there's another operating Starbucks in the area, and the queuing is, I think, one of the top concerns at this location. So we have 300 linear feet of queuing in this location, which gives us, what I'm gonna call is equivalent to 14, 12 by 20 stacking spaces. That's much larger than any car. That's basically assuming that everyone with their F-250 is getting in line and grabbing their Starbucks grande. So the queue wraps around the perimeter of the site. We do have, closer to the entrance component, a screened masonry trash enclosure. It's been orientated so it's easy in and out for any pickup services. That has been screened. Like I said, it's gonna be a masonry actual enclosure. It has been screened by evergreens. There's approximately 33 junipers proposed around the property. You also see that we have, almost in a boxwood hedgerow configuration, various species of boxwood, so that's creating a nice little hedgerow across the front. We have 5 red maples scattered around the property, wherever basically there's enough space to have those roots take root.
Take root.
Yeah, I was trying not to say it. Subsurface, we do have a stormwater facility, really allowing us to reduce the runoff rates from the facility. There's a slight increase in impervious coverage, but when water is leaving the facility, if you look at this again on that micro level, it's going to be cleaner, it's going to be reduced. With that system, all the utilities will be fed either through, we'll call it the signalized intersection to the left outside of the actual DOT right-of-way, and then through almost to where Taco Bell has their connection from a sanitary standpoint. We have talked to DOT about this application. They have no jurisdiction here. That was one of the first things that we did when talking to them about this intersection. So that's the project from a top-down site plan approval. However, as part of this application, understanding what Belmont is in the community, we also did obviously a stormwater statement that went with the problem. We did a traffic study, right? We not only looked at the parking on site, which from a number standpoint is sufficient. We also looked at the queuing capacity for this, understanding other locations in the area. And the way we look at queuing is based on service time. It's how fast can someone be serviced at the pickup window, not the drive-through order menu. I know all of us get a little frustrated when we pull up to the order window and we can't get there. However, that's not what's creating delay. It's actually the pickup window, how fast someone can actually give someone their order. That being said, industry average for use like this is between 30 and 40 seconds. We left it on the higher side at 37. We ran our analysis. That was approximately 15 cars. We show 14, again, that's actual cars in the, I think it was the 95th percentile. So from an analysis standpoint, we do think there's enough stacking in the actual property, the 300 feet, to accommodate what we're expecting. I do think there's going to be a slight draw from what's already happening at the other location. However, a use like this, as much as it may not be classified more as a fast food, I do consider it more of a convenience use. When we look at this, there are lots of other options available to you, even other locations on the road. There's plenty of case and examples I think we all can think of between we have McDonald's, we have Wendy's. Key for these kind of users is getting people in and out and already being on the roadway. So when we looked at this from a traffic standpoint, we actually assumed that a lot of the traffic and the way the industry looks at it, so a lot of traffic's already on the roadway. So from a net generation standpoint, it's actually a little bit less than what we would think from a restaurant user, right? People are gonna come in, get out. It's all about convenience. If the line's too long, they will find either another way to order or pick up, or just go along their way, finding a different location. If we're all in a rush, we're late to work, we're gonna go somewhere else and or skip that cup of coffee. that is what we've done, so we've looked at that component as part of this. Do you want to say that the existing sign that is located in that area will remain, and Starbucks will also be, have a sign within that? From an elevation standpoint, just gonna flip over. It's going to be primary three materials. I don't think it printed out that well, so this will not be incoherent. It's a little bit more of a gray. I apologize. So we have 3 different materials. We have an ephes upper portion. We have a CMU block course running, we call it about the halfway line. It's a 21-foot high building. We have a wooden, it's a wooden resin across the main front of the main facade. Just from a view standpoint, this would be a pickup window. This is coming, if you're looking, if you just came in the drive, it's parallel to Belmont. This is the frontage, which will actually have some evergreen shrubs across the front. And then this is the main balance of the building that you'll see from would be northbound traffic. So that is the application. Answer any questions that you guys have at this time.
Thank you. Are you familiar with this Starbucks over at the Westgate Mall?
I am.
Is it comparable to the size and
I believe
size of the patio? They don't have an outdoor seating area.
I don't remember the sizes, but from a standpoint, a lot of these locations, like a standalone's a little bit different than an inline. If I remember correctly, that one is inline. So the sizes tend to change. This is actually a smaller, the prototypes that I've worked with, which I do across the country, this is slightly smaller than what I normally
This
see.
is a standalone.
This is a standalone, yes.
And is this also the owner of that building in the parking lot with those big, huge barriers you put up? Is this the
He
same?
did not put up those barriers. When we ran the analysis, we assumed that those barriers were still there. There was no cross-access. From a traffic and circulation standpoint, we'd much like for those to be removed. However, that's part of an ongoing issue that I honestly do not know. We
So
looked at
those barriers weren't put, my understanding, they were put up by the owner of,
not at the shop, not
The
at the shop.
adjacent.
Yeah,
so it's the other, it's
Yeah.
the
So
Shaw's Plaza then?
right, so if you can actually see this weird configuration, it's not a mistake on my plans. This is actually directly from the survey.
It's
You
the
can see
property
this
boundary.
Weird configuration here.
Yeah.
There was, I believe at one point, a temporary easement or an access easement that's since expired, I think with one of the leases that was in place. And I think at that point, the adjoining property owner put up that barricade. And I think the 2 property owners have, I think for the last time we've been talking.
Terrible eyesore. I mean, it just-
There's a feud going on between the two property owners.
My,
Yeah.
my understanding, if I can, is that the dollar store sells food products, and that's competing with their business.
Right, that's what I heard, yes, yeah, okay. All right, any other questions from board members?
I do have a few questions and just clarification on a few things. So what is the entry point coming in from Belmont Street? Is it in between McDonald's and where the proposed building is gonna be?
That is
Yes.
correct, yeah.
And the traffic study you did, and you're aware of the fact what it's like there, like school, morning hours, and in the
Yeah.
afternoon, you talk about a nightmare with the Starbucks down the road. It's gonna definitely add some congestion there, but what did the traffic report say about those hours? I'm just curious.
So those were accounted for within the actual traffic study. I will say didn't operate as it exists today very well. I think from a generation standpoint, ultimately, that's what we talk about, like those trips aren't going to change.
Right.
So what's happening there today is not going to change from what we're doing today. We talked with DOT regarding the situation. Again, they're aware, and they didn't think that our proposed use would basically trigger them to take a review of this application.
And you just mentioned the additional parking that could be used, but you don't really need it. Is that part of the lease they have, that they're gonna be able to use that parking, which they technically, right now, they can't access it?
They can access.
They can?
So the
Where that barrier
parking
is?
field I'm talking about
They have to come in
actually
over
solely
differently.
on the property. There's no.
So it's before that barrier?
So it's before,
Okay.
it's the balance between the larger commercial building.
Okay.
And then our.
And you probably really won't need it anyways, but,
No, yeah, I think if you look at it, when we looked at like parking, if you look at parking spaces and where they're allocated, you're not gonna park here.
Right.
Either go to,
Right.
either shopping center, so it's,
Okay.
yeah.
I just needed clarification. Thank you, that's all I got.
Any other questions from the board?
Madam Chair, are you increasing the amount of green space or the amount of tree coverage in the area?
If we look at it at a localized level, yes. Just what we're doing, we're increasing the green space. However, I believe there's a slight actual increase in impervious coverage. It's a little bit of a conundrum here, but a lot of the areas that we have in the middle actually.
Well, the one on the eastern Brockton line.
Panera?
So there was a slight decrease in the impervious coverage. It's about a 2,000 square foot addition. That's why we have the basin. Otherwise, we wouldn't have to do that from a standpoint. There's a lot more tree cover, a lot more landscaping areas, like effective green space around the perimeter, is probably what I should say.
Okay. Okay.
Madam Chair, if I could. So when Brockton High School gets dismissed, there is a massive amount of students that cross the street and go over to what would be where you're pulling in to order or wait in line. Do we think it would be realistic to put maybe iron rod or something to prevent the traffic from coming in between the cars and the people ordering, the traffic moving through as they order?
In which location?
Right, so the bottom of the, right there,
So-
high school's across the street, and you're gonna, in my kind of seeing this, students walking to Starbucks through that traffic line.
So, yeah, there's two things that's important to note, is that there is a sidewalk that exists there today. So from an ADA accessibility standpoint, we have to have connection there. So wherever that ends up being, we honestly took the easiest route, what it would take someone to cross from that sidewalk right to the front door. They're gonna have to cross that driveway somehow, otherwise we're looking at a configuration which would significantly reduce the queuing on site. And what we've also proposed is to talk about that hedgerow, the evergreen, that essentially becomes basically a four-season screening, both for headlights and we'll call it young kids. The kids are gonna have to hop over. There has to be a thought through going through a hedgerow or boxwoods. They're been packed in as close as we can without having that fence feel in the front
Okay.
yard.
All right, so you've anticipated that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
For pedestrians who will be walking, like you're mentioning, from either the high school, from the sidewalk into the store, have you all thought about like maybe elevating like a crosswalk or something that could like allow pedestrians to not have to deal completely with the traffic or anything like that, or the queuing that you're dealing with?
Are we talking?
Yeah, on site.
There is, I don't know if you can see it, there's actually a big crosswalk, there's a designated crosswalk for the.
On site or something, because you're saying like they would have to walk through the queue to walk into the building.
Correct, and that would be, it's actually almost perfectly aligned not only with the front, but where you pull up to order. So at that point, someone would have to have stopped, ordered, booked again before they go. So it's actually, location-wise, it's the best. I get what you're saying. I think there's an issue from a grade standpoint. We're actually, as much as possible, trying to shoot it down. The building and the property itself sits approximately a foot or two higher than this grade. We don't have much space across the front to make that up without, which would be like an induced sidewalk or a ramp with handrails.
Yeah, I'm just thinking for the walkers, the students
Yeah.
who will be leaving school, or people who will try to walk into the building there, like, how do we make it as safe for them as possible, seeing there will be cars that will kind of like, they'll have to navigate with the cars.
Again, we try to think about, there's other things that we could do, is potentially maybe put a sign that says like yield for pedestrians there, if that's something the board really wants to see. But from a striping standpoint, from a location standpoint, we think we've done the best we can. I think additional signage couldn't hurt. A simple, like, basically beware of crossing kids in this location right here, an extra sign. That's something we could consider.
Madam Chair, if I could, I think it would be good for the pedestrians to have a sign and the traffic to have a sign, just so when you see it coming in, if you have bushes on both sides, you might be able to, view the cars, but also something that says something to the pedestrians as well as the
Moving traffic? Yeah. Got it.
So, like a traffic sign, yield to pedestrians,
That's,
and then a sign
And also
for
the
pedestrians to
as
say.
well.
yeah.
That'd be a good idea.
Any other
And I
questions?
assume there's gonna, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, there'll be a designated area there that's gonna be lined or yellow lined or whatever,
Yeah,
for that crosswalk, right?
Yeah, it comes a little bit better actually in the site
Right.
plan than it does in the area, the actual rendering.
So it'll be noticeable.
Yeah,
by-
it's a striped pedestrian walk.
Right.
Just as if you're crossing here, a little bit better defined actually,
Right.
we have the crossbars. So there will be a designated pathway Do know how snow and weathering happens.
Right.
So the sign's not a bad idea.
I guess my question would be, given approval, what's the build time? When is this project looking to get started, if it's approved?
April? When it gets 90? Yeah, tomorrow. I think they're ready to go at this point.
What was the answer to that? I'm sorry.
Basically now.
You're ready to go.
When I with the building department, yeah. So as soon as we have yesterday.
Okay. Any other questions? Public comment? Anyone here? Okay, seeing there are none. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve with the additional signage we have discussed for pedestrians and the drivers.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, we have, this is back in 10 Father Kenny Way. Hale Corporation is the agent. Applicant is City of Brockton.
Telling me, I know.
Good evening. I'm Brad McCord. I'm with Bargman Hendry, the architects, and I've got Jim Jackson from G.A.R Corporation, who is actually listed on your docket.
Okay.
Thank you for having us this evening. We're here for the senior center expansion for the city of Brockton. This is a project that's been going on for a while in design with the Council on Aging, and I'm just going to give a brief overview, and then I'm going to hand it over to Jim to kind of get into more of the site issues. But the existing building was built in 2000, and it actually included a footprint for expansion, so it was already anticipated when it was originally built for an expansion. So this is the existing building footprint. It's right on Main Street and Father Kenny Way, just for reference. And we're looking, it's about 8,000 square feet. We're looking to expand about 4,000 square feet into the parking lot area. You can see from this site plan. The existing building is here. We're adding in about 4,000 square feet towards the parking lot and then some onto the front. It's not a change of use. It's just to expand programs that are currently served by the Council on Aging to serve the senior population of the city. We'll be increasing program spaces. Existing space has one multi-purpose room. We're looking to expand that and then have it subdividable to be able to accommodate additional program spaces simultaneous. There's a new entrance that comes in off of the parking lot side. The new entry, expanded toilets, and an expanded and relocated commercial kitchen, also to serve other functions and programs. The administrative space stays roughly in the same location, and just renovated those offices. So it's pretty straightforward, but much needed program that Council on Aging needs to really serve the population. With that, I'll let Jim jump in and get into some of the site issues.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Jim Jackson. I'm a civil engineer with PAR Engineering. and go up to the board if it's okay.
Sure.
Yeah, so as Brad explained, when the project was built in 2000, they left an area in front of the building, landscaped area.
Okay, it's touchscreen, just heads up.
There you go. So this area here, they left kind of just landscape for future expansion. So that's where the 4,000 square foot addition will be placed, right in that area. So it did not impact the vehicle access or the parking on site, so that will remain as is. Updated parking count required is 21 spaces, and we had 47 on site, so we're just going to keep the existing parking as is. Did make some improvements to the bio-retention area to accommodate, there is a little additional runoff coming from the building addition, the roof drains. Converted from the grass area to a building roof, so there wasn't an increase in the flows. There's roof drainage, so it is clean, considered clean flows. So we're able to bring that directly to an enlarged bio-retention area on the site. And that, I should have brought up earlier, that was reviewed by the Conservation Commission, because we do have a resource area, the brook, on the south end of the project. And that was approved in their January hearing, so that's been before the commission, and they approved it with other conditions. We also have an ad alternate on the project that we may or may not have funding for, probably won't have funding for. Yeah, we do have an ad alternate on the project that if we have funding available, we will make some improvements to the existing parking lot, and that would include repaving the lot, but also stormwater improvements. We would put a storm scepter to treat the runoff, and then we would run that into an infiltration system to reduce the runoff leaving the site, and that would reduce the overall runoff from the site by over 40%. I believe that pretty much explains the project. If there's any questions, we're available to answer them.
Open up for questions for the board.
I don't have any specific questions. I just think it's fantastic to see the plan in front of us, so.
I agree.
Yeah,
Okay. Public comment? Anyone here?
Well, I guess that would be me. Good evening, Janice Fitzgerald, the Executive Director of the Council on Aging. We're really excited about this project. It's long overdue. Older adults have increased significantly in the city since our last census. We're up to about 19,000 individuals 60 and older. Mr. McCord and his team have created a great plan for us to utilize more space than we've been able to in the existing building. The building we have now is beautiful, it's just not functional any longer. So with that, thank you very much.
Can you please just sign in? Sure. Thank you. Okay. Public's.
I do have one question, if I could. You just spoke about the additional runoff, if there's money available. So you're gonna do some of it, but you could do more if there was more money?
Yes.
I get that right?
Yeah, so what we'll do is, we are adding, impervious area with the addition, and that's all going to be addressed in the base project. What we're doing is enlarging this bio-retention area to accommodate that additional runoff from the roofs from the addition. The ad alternate work, that if money's available, is to make improvements to the existing parking lot. So the city engineer, kind of wanted to see if we could make some improvements. And the funding was already, I think, is already kind of in place, so and construction costs just keep going up, so it's.
Oh, okay, I see.
It's hard to see, when the bids come in, they'll know if the money's available. But we did put together this plan and wanted to bring it in front of you, because sometime in the future it will be done if we're not able to do it in this project. But that would include, right now, all the runoff from this parking area goes to a catch basin, and it goes directly back out to the street drainage. What we're proposing is to, from the catch basin, run it through a storm scepter, which will treat the runoff, and then into an infiltration system, which will infiltrate it into the ground, and then any overflow from the infiltration will go back to the city system.
So you need the funding, but that may not happen for a while.
May not happen yet. and then that would include repaving that whole parking lot.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there-
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There is not any further business? Going
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, everyone.
Unanimous, thank you.